Incineroar, and Incineroar I think will be another key component because you can always go for the knockoff, try and remove that leftovers and try and stop the Golden Go from really getting as much prowess on the field. But let's hear it for our trainers. It's going to be Incineroar and Calyrex coming out of the blocks with Incineroar and Urshifu on the field for Lorenzo.
Ooh, a bit of a difference in lead matchups. Of course, both Incineroars coming off, and it looks like Marco's Incineroar is going to get the Intimidate off first, so possibly indicating it's either faster or this is a speed tie, and I don't think either player might want to make that risk just yet. But Urshifu is just really strong, but we might even see a bit of a fake-out trade-off, which is what we've commonly see when a lot of fake-out users are on the field. But Calyrex looking not quite happy facing off against this single strike Urshifu. Of course, it can go for the terrestrialization to get out of that weakness from the super effective and guaranteed critical hit wicked blows.
I think the Urshifu is key right now because it can do so much damage to either of the opposing Pokemon there. If it wants to go for something like that close combat, it can deal with the opposing Incineroar. But Incineroar says, no, I'm not even going to contend with you. We're going to go for the fake out. And hey, let's trade them into the two big heavy hitters. So a little bit of a stalemate here. Of course, there is the Focus Sash on the Urshifu, though, that has now been broken for free on Lorenzo's side.
Oh, that is a really important piece of information for Marco, is that he can now go for a really strong attack into the Urshifu. And it's also really interesting to note that his Incineroar fake out went off first, so indicating that maybe Marco's Incineroar is indeed trained faster. But of course, this is not a guarantee unless maybe the Incineroar has consistently over multiple turns being able to go first. But at this stage, I don't think it's a guarantee that the Incineroar is the first. So, we have to see whether or not this Calyrex is going to Terra out of that weakness to the Dark.
Let's have a look, though. It is going to be the Calyrex Ice Rider turning into the Water Terra type here. That does give it a little bit of respite against both the Urshifu and the Incineroar here. Doesn't have to worry about taking this close combat, and the Wicked Blow either. It is able to do just over a third of damage. Going to be able to take another one of those as the Incineroar goes for Parting Shot. One thing to note, trainers, there are no Flare Blitzes here on the Incineroars either. They're really doubling down on those Dark types with Knockoff, Taunt, and Parting Shot. So as the Calyrex, you don't have to worry about Flare Blitzes. The Water Terra type here really just to help you out against the Urshifu.
Yeah, that Water Terra type was so helpful because without it, it would have been knocked out. And now Marco's Incineroar, having gone first again, is able to get a free switch out into his own Urshifu. And Incineroar now going for the knockoff, knocking off that clear amulet, meaning that if he chooses to switch out, if the Incineroar then switches back in, he will be susceptible. And now we see a Glacial Lance taking off a good chunk of damage from the Urshifu, but not quite enough to knock it out.
I think Lorenzo really identifying Calyrex as the threat here, and you need to get it off the field before it's able to go for another Glacial Lance and get the KO on that Urshifu, which would enable Chilling Neigh. I think due to the speed of that Urshifu, it's in a prime position. The question, however, is Marco's Urshifu. Is it going to be faster here? Because if so, it's able to get the KO on that Urshifu, meaning that the Calyrex on Marco's side is going to be sitting really pretty on the field. Incineroar, as we saw, the knockoff did barely anything, and now that the item has been knocked off, it's going to do even less.
Yes, indeed. And the Incineroar maybe might want to switch out at some point and switch back in to reduce the Calyrex, or he can just try and knock out the Calyrex because this Calyrex is heavily weakened, but actually it's going to withdraw. And what is Marco going to bring in next?
It is the Incineroar throwing down an Intimidate. Hey, we've seen this show before, but I think it's critical here to just make sure that if it is something coming through like a close combat, you're going to be able to not deal as much damage. The close combat comes through first of all from Marco's Urshifu and KOs its counterpart.
Oh, what a good KO for Marco. Now that Urshifu, one of the strongest threats on Lorenzo's side, and also a huge threat to the rest of this team, including the Calyrex, is knocked out. Knockoff onto Marco's Incineroar, getting to knock off the Citrus Berry, which will prevent from getting any recovery, but just doing a little bit of chip damage. And Lorenzo now down to his final three, losing one, but allowing that free switch into the Calyrex.
The perspective has been shifted here a little bit as well, because Calyrex gets in, it's got the clear amulet, so it doesn't even have to worry about a potential Intimidate here, but you do still have to worry about now having that knockoff and the Wicked Blow given back to you in retaliation. I think it's wise to go for the Terra Water here, just because you have to protect yourself from that Urshifu. It's got Unseen Fist, so even if you wanted to try and protect, it's going to be able to come through with that Wicked Blow or close combat.
Yeah, this is going to be a really close turn. And Calyrex, I think, there's not much stopping Marco from going for that fake out and a double up into the Calyrex. If it protects, it's going to take Wicked Blow damage anyway, and if it doesn't protect, it's going to get flinched. So, maybe Lorenzo might want to switch it out, but I think Calyrex, going for that Terra Water, just making sure that it's going to stay nice and safe from this super effective Dark type move coming out. And Golden Golden Go now going to come in. What we were talking about earlier, here we go.
Now, who's going to be the star of the show? Is Lorenzo going to make the Calyrex shine, or is it going to be about getting that Golden Go set up and apply a lot of pressure? Defensively, though, you need to go for this Water Terror type, and I love the fact that Incineroar is waiting in the back to intimidate later on against the 3 physical attackers on Marco's side. But for now, the fake out's just going to come down into Calyrex, little bit of chip damage, slow it down in its pace as the critical hit from the Wicked Blow comes through. As you can see, Calyrex going to be able to take another one of those, though.
Yes, and Golden Go, switching in, now that the Terror has been used, it is heavily threatened by a Wicked Blow from this Urshifu, which is going to outspeed this Golden Go. So, it's in a really interesting position here where it can, try and go for maybe a Maker Rain or a Nasty Plot. Also, the Urshifu is a single target Pokemon, so it has to choose one target. If it targets the Golden Go, yes, it might be able to knock it out. But if it chooses the Calyrex, Calyrex can survive another turn, unless, of course, there's a double up from the Incineroar. And the Incineroar, actually, from the double up, it might be enough to knock out this Calyrex.
I wonder if the Golden Go is even going to stay on the field, because I think it's going to be a pretty piece of shiny bait, allowing the Incineroar to come back in, because it's going to be able to take a Wicked Blow or a knockoff much better than the Golden Go would have. And here is Lorenzo doing it. And also, just to add measure, you get the Intimidate down as well. So if it is something coming through from the Incineroar, then that's going to be weakened. Obviously, Wicked Blow will critical hit anyway, but it actually goes into the Calyrex. Not enough to get the knockout, but is that double up? Yes, it is.
Oh,
and it is enough.
It's a knockout.
Calyrex is down.
Lorenzo down to his final 2 Pokemon. What a well-played turn for Marco. Just, focusing down on the Calyrex, which was the bigger threat, and utilizing the Incineroar and the fact that the Calyrex is unable to protect in front of this Urshifu. And now Golden Go is forced out. It is, of course, weak to this Urshifu, and it's also getting outsped. So there's nothing really stopping this Urshifu from just going for Wicked Blow. Of course, it does have to watch out for this Incineroar, which is able to go for a fake out. But, it can just detect, and then in the following turn, go for that Wicked Blow.
I love how Marco didn't take the bait at all. And now Golden Go, which could have gone for a Nasty Plot, has to now come in and now reassess how it's going to play out this game. Instead, just going on the offensive, making it rain, but defensive plays by Marco being utilized so well. Incineroar not going to worry about the Make It Rain at all. And now for its troubles, the special attack will be dropped off that Golden Go, and there's no utility to be able to switch out. The knockoff comes through as well. Big damage. That is going to be able to knock the leftovers off as well and not give it any more flexibility on the field.
No, this Golden Go's time on the field is very limited, and Lorenzo, recognizing that, is going to forfeit this battle and go back to the drawing board and try to think about how he's going to play up this game too. And I think we didn't actually see Marco's final Pokemon. I think he's switched out Incineroar, and Urshifu and the Calyrex. So we don't know.
That's all you need.
We don't know what Marco had hidden in the back, but I think he got a really nice lead matchup. And then in that one turn where he was able to get the Incineroar and the Urshifu onto the field, and then he applied so much pressure because he couldn't protect in front of this fake out incoming Wicked Blow and was forced to go for that Terror to survive it.
I think the turn with Lorenzo and the Golden Go was interesting because it must have been so tempting for Marco to go down into the Golden Go, but at the same time, there isn't necessarily a point. Without the Nasty Plot, there isn't a lot that Golden Go can do. The Shadow Ball isn't going to do much into 2 Dark types necessarily, and also the Make It Rain. Urshifu still had its Focus Sash intact. So yes, you can go for Make It Rain, but it's going to be able to hang on and deal damage in retaliation. So I really like that play by Marco, just being like, no, I'm going to leave the Golden Go alone. It might switch out, it might stay in, doesn't bother me, but I can get this Calyrex and I can get it off the field.
Yeah, it was a really safe play for Marco, but also testament to how well he positioned his Pokemon. So that he was in that position where he was unafraid to take these risks. And of course, Golden Go is not going to be able to do very much to this Incineroar. So I wonder if that's something that Lorenzo is even going to try and bring into that next game.
I mean, looking at the Pokemon choices that were there, if we assume that maybe Marco was also bringing the Golden Go in the back just for that coverage, the 2 Pokemon that then were benched from our trainers were really that Amoonguss and the Raging Bull. I feel like Amoonguss would have a difficult time considering the Calyrex and also just the fact you've got these critical Wicked Blows coming through from Urshifu. That will just deal a significant chunk of damage to it, as well as things like Taunt on the Incineroar. That's going to be unfortunate for Amoonguss. It wants to go for Rage Powder, it wants to go for Spore, so I really do think Amoonguss will take a break in this set.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Amoonguss will be coming back. Here we go, game 2. It's going to be Incineroar and Calyrex against another Incineroar and Calyrex. So a complete mirror match, and we're going to see, it looks like Lorenzo's Calyrex is going to be the first one to trigger its ability, so maybe that's the faster Calyrex. But it also looks like Marco's Incineroar once again is able to get that Intimidate off first. So I actually think, based on all the information that we've had so far, unless that Marco's Incineroar has won 5 speed ties in a row, I think it's safe to say that that is the faster Incineroar, and it's going to be able to get that fake out off first.
Marco's definitely seen the need for speed here. You know, I think the Urshifu and the Incineroar have been moving first most times, so indicative of the way that they've been trained, and that can give you such an advantage in a mirror match where things are very similar and you don't have a lot of speed control options. It could be a way to utilize it. That said, Lorenzo does have the potential to go for something like a Trick Room, and if Marco's team is generally faster, that's something that you can capitalize on. The Calyrex is though where things could get interesting though, because Calyrex is still going to appreciate being in a Trick Room on Marco's side.
Yeah, look at this terrestrialization coming off first round, turn 1. It's going to be the Calyrex. I think that's Calyrex on Lorenzo's side going into that Terra Water type. So, you know, not wanting to take super effective damage from any Dark type moves from the Incineroar, but the Incineroar is just going to go for a fake out, flinching it and preventing it from making it. And we're going to see a bit of a mirror from that previous game where the Incineroars just went for the fake out onto the partners.
The only difference here is there's no terrestrialization used on Marco's side. He still has that ticket to use and has a bit more flexibility around it, whereas Lorenzo has locked into it now. I think, you know, going for the terrestrialization just in case there was something coming out like the knockoff straight away to get rid of that clear amulet was a nice play, but you have now kind of committed to it, and that's information you have given Marco for free.
Yes, and that leaves also Lorenzo with a lot less room for flexibility in the future when he has another Pokemon that is weak to another attack and cannot terrestrialize out of that weakness. So Incineroar, actually Lorenzo's Incineroar going for the parting shot first. Maybe that's an indication that it was a speed tie all along.
This match is a roller coaster for sure. Lorenzo being able to get that parting shot off into its counterpart and enabling Lorenzo to switch up the ball position, bringing in the Urshifu. I really like this. It applies a lot of offensive pressure to both the opposing sides, as well as not worrying too much about what Marco can throw this way. The knockoff gets rid of the clear amulet. That is good information for Marco to be able to intimidate later on, as Urshifu avoids the high horsepower. Glacial Lands will connect through, of course, do a little damage to the Incineroar, a little bit to the Calyrex, but the key thing is that damage is rolling through.
That was a huge miss for the Calyrex, because now the Urshifu is able to come in. Sorry, the what did I say? High horse, yeah. The high horsepower missed the Urshifu. So Urshifu was able to come into the battle with the focus sash intact, which means he's going to need another 2 hits before getting knocked out of this game. And now this Calyrex on Marco's side is so heavily threatened and really has to consider going for that Terra Water if he wants to stay on the field and take this wicked blow.
You know, the high horsepower is really scary, because if Incineroar stayed in, big damage. If Golden Ghost switches in, big damage. Urshifu, not so much about the damage, but the focus sash is down. It was a win-win there for Marco. So unfortunately, Calyrex not able to come through there, but it has its time for redemption. Able to go for the Terra Water here as Urshifu on Lorenzo's side gets the most comfort and the KO on that Incineroar.
What a fantastic KO for Lorenzo there. Incineroar is now gone. No more Intimidate, no more Fake Out for Marco. Calyrex Ice, of course, Ice right now, going for Terra Water, is going to take resistor damage. This is going to be single target Glacial Lance. I would expect it to survive, but I'm really curious, is it going to maybe go for a Trick Room or just retaliate back with that Glacial Lance? And here we go. It is going to knock down the Urshifu. Oh, not even to the focus sash. So, you know, Urshifu just surviving there due to its own bulk.
I mean, it has been broken at least, and I guess with Glacial Lance, you don't have to rely on the accuracy there. You know that it's going to be able to connect through, and the one thing I like is the little bit of chip that both these trainers are getting on their Calyrexes, because they have terrestrialized things like the Wicked Blow and Close Combat. Those are not going to be dealing as much damage as before, so you want to put them in range of this speedy Urshifu to be able to get the damage down. This is where Marco now brings in a Pokemon that can work around Urshifu. It has the potential to go for that Thunderclap, the priority move, and get the knockout before Wicked Blow can come into play.
Yes, of course, this Urshifu also gets access to priority itself, and Urshifu being naturally faster than the Raging Bolt means that it can get that Sucker Punch off before the Raging Bolt can go for the Thunderclap, and I'm sure this is something that a player of Marco's caliber is aware of, so maybe he might not want to go for that Thunderclap and maybe want to try and catch the Urshifu or something else, because the Raging Bolt is going to be able to survive an attack from the Urshifu. Actually, Urshifu just going to withdraw, so Lorenzo wanting to keep it safe for another turn.
I also like this because if Thunderclap was going into that slot, it is now going to fail, and Raging Bolt will not be able to be utilized this turn. The Clear Amulet obviously is still intact on the opposing Calyrex, as the Calyrex on Lorenzo's side just goes for a Protect, does not want to take anything that might even be coming from this Raging Bolt, but it was the Thunderclap. It is going to fail into the defensive plays on Lorenzo's side as the Glacial Lance will come through. Again, not going to deal too much to the opposing Incineroar, so not enabling any chilling Nade boost here. I think both Calyrex players are really starting to slow down the pace, not allow the opponent to get any leg room here.
Yeah, this is a fantastic position for Lorenzo. He can now go for the fake out onto that Raging Bolt, which has a Silva, so it cannot protect. And Calyrex is very free to spam a Glacial Lance. You know, it's not going to get knocked out by this Incineroar, and it's going to heavily threaten the Raging Bolt. I wouldn't be surprised if it knocked out that Raging Bolt with Glacial Lance if the Raging Bolt was able to stay in the battle. So I think that's something that Marco has to really consider and maybe be forced to switch out to his final Pokemon in the back.
On Marco's side, though, do you go for just the Glacial Lance, or do you maybe try and call a high horsepower here, try and maybe get rid of the opposing Incineroar, but instead the fake out comes through on Lorenzo's Incineroar, catches the Urshifu, there goes the Focus Sash as Calyrex goes for the Glacial Lance. Is this enough to get the KO? No, Urshifu and Calyrex are both going to be able to hang on as Calyrex goes for the high horsepower, finding his mark in the Calyrex on the opposing side rather than the Incineroar.
Yes, Calyrex finally a little bit more accurate this turn and being able to land that high horsepower. Of course, now the Urshifu has come in. It is going to heavily threaten the Calyrex. I believe at this range, it looks like a Wicked Blow is going to knock it out, and it can also knock out the Incineroar with a close combat. So Urshifu is very free to just start clicking attacks and, you know, knock out one of its opponents. Of course, the Urshifu itself is also quite heavily chipped, so having access to a single target move means that it might be susceptible to getting knocked out by its opponent if it does not target the correct Pokemon.
You're right, though. Urshifu has its pick of the litter here with who it wants to target down. The question is, though, what if there is a cheeky Golden Go in the back that could come through? Instead, it's actually going to be the Amoonguss, Pokemon I was not expecting to see in this set, but again, a Pokemon that can eat up a close combat. Definitely a fantastic switch there by Lorenzo. It's also weakening that Urshifu's defenses and special defenses, meaning that the Incineroar could capitalize on this potentially, as Incineroar goes for the knockoff instead, finds his mark on the Calyrex, but cannot find the KO.
Oh, the Calyrex is going to hang on, and it is going to get that Glacial Lance off, and I think in this range, it is enough to knock out this Amoonguss and giving itself a +1 boost to its attack. So this Calyrex is going to be very, very chilling indeed with that chilling Neigh ability.
This is honestly why I thought Amoonguss wouldn't come to this match, because Calyrex Ice Rider can just do that. Not only get the KO, but then, as you mentioned, Zoe, get that chilling Neigh boost. It has lost its Clear Amulet, so you do, at least if you're Lorenzo, have the capability to bring Incineroar in later on if you switch it out and intimidate it and try and negate that boost, but you're going to have to move the puzzle pieces around because Incineroar's currently on the field.
Look at all these heavily chipped Pokemon.
Yeah.
Right now, I think it's a matter of the speed ties between Urshifus, because each Urshifu is going to be felled by a Sucker Punch from the other, and the Incineroar on Lorenzo's side is faster than Calyrex, and we see, you know, Marco switching out that Calyrex, not wanting to risk it getting knocked out, and the Incineroar now able to munch on its berry, because Calyrex, of course, has the other ability, Unnerve, preventing the opposing Pokemon from eating it. Now we have that Raging Bolt once again, but Urshifu keeping itself safe with the Protect on Marco's side.
I like this, the Wicked Blow coming through, manages to do over 50% to the opposing Raging Bolt as Incineroar gives a parting shot for good measure, just meaning it's going to be a little more underwhelming on the field, let's say, for Marco. The key thing if you're Lorenzo, though, is you have to think, hey, how am I going to get through this Raging Bolt? And I think that's why keeping Calyrex in the back is a really nice opportunity here. You've lowered the special attack of that Raging Bolt. That might allow the slow and bulky Calyrex to be able to hang on. If it wasn't water terrestrialization, that's a problem. That's a really big problem, Zoe.
Yes, this water terrestrialized Calyrex is not going to appreciate any electric moves. Of course, its partner Urshifu might be able to help out with a Sucker Punch, but then you've got the other Urshifu on Marco's side to worry about, and Urshifu on Lorenzo's side can only target one Pokemon. If it does manage to win the speed tie, it will be able to knock out one Pokemon, I believe, but no, that's a question of can it win the speed tie, because otherwise this Calyrex, maybe you might want to wait until the partner Incineroar comes in, but the Wicked Blow is going to be coming off onto Lorenzo's side, so the Urshifu is going to get knocked out and forcing Lorenzo to bring out his Incineroar.
Marco knows exactly what he's doing here, gets one KO and gets another. Now there is only one Pokemon remaining on Lorenzo's side. That Incineroar is going to be able to rejoin the field, but it's going to have a tall order to face against the Urshifu, Raging Bolt, and Calyrex Ice Rider on Marco's side.
Yes, it's a very tall order for this Incineroar now. It's got three Pokemon to go through. There's the Urshifu with the access to close combat, but even at this range, it has to worry about, you know, both all the Pokemon on Marco's side are quite chip, but Incineroar itself is very, very slow, and there's nothing stopping Marco from just going for that double protect, burn that turn off fake out. And Incineroar has no priority move, so the Pokemon on Marco's side can just slowly pick off this Incineroar.
Yes, and the Urshifu has a lot of flexibility. It could even technically switch out, reset that Intimidate, come back in and go for close combat, and just completely remove the Incineroar from the field. Marco has all the tools to be able to clean up this top 8 and advance into top 4. There goes out the Urshifu, like we said, just trying to reset that Intimidate and enable the knockout later in the game.
Yeah, setting up Marco, just playing it absolutely safe. Raging Bolt is going to eat a fake out for his troubles, but he's not really going to get. And the Glacial Lance coming off, going to probably do chip damage, but at this point, you know, Marco can just slowly wait for either one of his Pokemon to get knocked out before coming back in with that Urshifu and close combating his way to victory.
There's the Thunderclap. It will fail, however. Incineroar saying it's not over yet. Going for a cheeky taunt just to show you what I can do and just kind of maybe throw a little sand in the way of that Raging Bolt as Calyrex gets the Glacial Lance down. Single target. Still not enough to be able to get the KO, but it really is a matter of time.
Yes, Lorenzo recognizing that is going to forfeit. Very well played from both opponents, and congratulations to Marco.
Marco Silva advancing into top 4, an incredible player, a 2-time international champion, really showcasing his skills and wanting to add another regional title to that list of accolades we got to see earlier.
Yeah, Marco just proving to us time and again why he is one of the top players in this format and, in fact, in this community. And also, now that he's